My name is Killian Glover. A life-changing moment for me is kind of a twofold answer. The first part of that is coming to college. My whole life, I told my parents, I'm not coming to college, there's no way, it's just not something I was interested in. And come my senior year, I had a teacher in high school challenge me on that and ask, why the reason for that was. And I really had no reason to give. And all of the things that I was interested in doing, I kind of needed college for. And so from that, decided to start applying and got into Elma, and here I am. The second part of that answer is when I got here, even though I'm from Elma, the community, so I'm right close by, but I actually was incredibly homesick and still kind of had that internal thought of I don't belong here, and I really struggled with that my first couple weeks especially. And when I really found myself feeling rooted on campus is when I joined my fraternity, Phi Mu Alpha, and so that was a really life-changing experience for me in that sense as well, because I never saw myself joining a fraternity. Even as I was going, looking at going into the rush process, I was telling everybody, there's no way, I'll just go and I'll try it and say I don't like it, and that'll be that. But I found myself actually liking it, and I had a lot of nice people that kind of brought me in with open arms, and that made me feel at home here on campus. I feel like I would have never met had it not been for PMA. Like we met at Traditions Dinner and everything, but I don't think we would have really hung out much outside of that, if it wasn't for Phi Mu Alpha. So I think that to start out with my academics, my classes were pretty easy. It was all intro stuff. It was a lot of exploring. I came in as an undecided student, and so I had to figure out what my major was going to be. So I was taking an introductory coding class. I was taking an introductory history class. I was taking an introductory psychology class. So it was all pretty easy. It definitely can make it busier because the fraternity has certain commitments. Like currently I am serving as the vice president, which means that I have to do a whole lot of things to make sure the fraternity runs smoothly. But outside of the fraternity, my academics aren't too crazy. I'm a communications major, and the stereotype of that is that there's not much to do in a communications major. But this semester specifically, you kind of caught me at a bad time, unfortunately, because my classes are really tough. This week I had a presentation I had to do and 2 papers due, and the week before, similarly, I had a paper draft due. I had 2 presentations. I had all kinds of 50 pages plus reading a night to do, and so right now I'm very academically swamped, but I feel like the fraternity doesn't really contribute to that. I'm an only child, let me preface with that, and so I was not used to living with a roommate. And so when I first moved into Elma, I had a roommate that I just wasn't used to living with people, and so it was difficult to find my own space to decompress. I kind of need that at the end of a long day or something. I usually take time to go decompress and lay in bed or whatever, but it's hard to do that if somebody else is making noise in the room, and so I really struggled with that. So I felt very overwhelmed, and of course during Tartan 101, which is the freshman orientation, you're doing everything all day every day, and the dorm is hot, and so it was just a really miserable experience that first week. When we finally got to classes, that is where I started to kind of find people that I resonated with. And so for example, choir, I got to get into choir and meet people. Actually my fraternal father, Grant Williford, he is the one that brought me into Phi Mu Alpha. He helped me kind of start feeling like choir could be like my family, to help me get away from this overwhelmed, uncomfortable kind of feeling. I definitely saw my local friends less. College kind of takes you, it's like a wave. It kind of takes you and you can't really get out of it so easily. You have times where I've gotten out to see my community friends during breaks and things when all of us are on break. And my parents, I think, see me less now that I'm at college than they ever have my whole life. And so we just grew a little farther apart, I'd say.